Sometimes the most powerful part of a book isn't found in any of its pages. It's the question staring back at you from the cover, a question that can just stop you in your tracks and really make you think. So today, we're not exactly reviewing a book. We're going to deconstruct a question, one that feels more urgent right now than maybe ever before.
So this is it. This is our source. A book cover with a title that asks something really profound. How do nations lose immunity against tyranny? Every single word in that question carries so much weight. So let's unpack it together.
To really get what this title is asking, we have to see it as more than just a question. It's practically a diagnosis.
Now notice the wording here. It's very specific. It doesn't ask if nations can lose immunity. It asks how. This isn't about whether it's possible. It's about the process. It implies that nations are supposed to have this immunity in the first place and that the real tragedy is in the act of losing it.
So that brings us to the core idea, right? We all get biological immunity, our bodies fighting off a cold. But what in the world does it mean for an entire society to be immune to something as big and complicated as tyranny? This leads us right to this brilliant metaphor. When you start thinking of immunity in a social or political way, it completely reframes how you see tyranny. It's no longer just a political problem, it's a kind of social disease. Think of social immunity as a kind of collective defense system. It's not about one person's courage. It's about our shared values, strong institutions, a free press, and citizens who are actually engaged. All these things work together like antibodies to spot and fight off the infection of oppression before it can really take hold. And the parallels are pretty striking, aren't they? A biological immune system fights off pathogens using antibodies, and it gets weaker under stress. Well, in the same way, a social immune system resists tyranny by using civic virtues, things like courage and critical thinking, and it gets dangerously worn down by public apathy and fear. Okay, so let's flip the coin for a second. If tyranny is the disease, what are its symptoms? The cover art itself actually gives us some really powerful clues. But first, just a quick bit of context. This book was published in 2012. Think about that for a moment. That's right in the aftermath of the Arab Spring, a time of incredible hope, but also a lot of anxiety about new kinds of control emerging. That context is key. Let's really dive into the visual story being told on the cover. I mean, every detail seems designed to make you feel something, and to ask another question. Take a look at the hands on the wire. Is this a final, desperate act of defiance, someone trying to break free, or is it the exact moment of surrender? That ambiguity, that's the whole point. It's that precise, razor-thin moment where immunity is lost. And the barbed wire itself, is it a border meant to protect people from some outside threat? Or has it become the wall of a prison that was built from within? Tyranny so often blurs that line, doesn't it? It tries to convince people that their cage is actually for their own safety. And finally, let's think about this silhouette. It's this shadowed, faceless figure. Is this just the victim of tyranny? Or, and this is the really chilling part, does the shadow represent the complicity of the people themselves? The apathy and fear that allowed the social immune system to collapse in the first place? So now, let's do this. Let's take this question from a 2012 book cover and apply it to our world, right here, right now. Because even though the context of its publication was very specific, the question of how freedom is lost, well, that's absolutely universal and timeless. It applies to every society in every single era. The big takeaway here is that social immunity is not permanent. It's not something you just have. It's like physical fitness. It needs constant work. It requires active participation. It needs critical thinking. It demands courage. And it has to be built on a foundation of shared values that we are all willing to defend. So, we'll leave you with this. The book asks how nations lose their immunity. But the question for each of us, every single day, is what are you doing to strengthen yours?